Amazon One Medical presents Painful Thoughts.
I could catch anything sitting in this doctor's waiting room. Ugh, a kid just wiped his runny nose on my jacket. And the guy next to me, sitting in a pool of perspiration, insists on sharing my armrest. Ugh.
Next time, make an appointment with an Amazon One Medical provider. There's no waiting and no sweaty guy. Amazon One Medical. Healthcare just got less painful.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there is more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Learn more at Viking.com.
You're listening to 2024 in Review, a look back at some of the most compelling conversations and stories of the year, from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers Podcast.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski,
featuring trial consultant and body language expert Susan Constantine.
The Soto family, Jen Soto, Madeline Soto, and then you have Stephen Stearns, the de facto stepfather, not really married, but has been in the home of the Sotos for quite some time. Now he's facing 60 charges against him in relation to child abuse material, sexual abuse material. Still, as of our recording, no one officially charged with the murder of Maddie Soto, but there is so much to look at and investigate. Joining me to discuss, Susan Constantine, body language expert. Stacey Cole also with us. We're going to break down some of these interviews that a lot of us have been seeing clips of over the last several weeks as we've been diving into this. Susan, before we begin reviewing these and going through them, what has been your, gut feeling on this case now that we're more than a week into it and all of the pieces that have continued to be coming together on it?
It hasn't changed since the first video that I saw. I was the person who they reached out to, Fox 35. It's right here in my area. So I analyzed that initial video from straight on. Mm-hmm. And based on that video, I said to the sheriff's office on air, you need to be looking at this boyfriend because he is showing some deceptive behavior. He should be considered a suspect in the disappearance of Madeline. So anyway, that was before she was found murdered. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, overall, my opinion hasn't changed. I could walk through and share with you what my findings were, mm-hmm. but clearly she was deceptive. There were all massive deceptive indicators. We'll talk about what those were that I saw, and also watching the boyfriend in the background. Yeah. A lot of people they noticed he was there, but they didn't notice some nuances that were very telling for me.
And we're going to go through both of those. There's the Fox 35 interview. There's also the Channel 9 interview that was given, both kind of having a different demeanor of Jen Soto in both of those. I'm really curious to get your insights. Let's start out by actually taking a look at that interview, the one from Channel 9, and we'll get to the Fox 35 one a little bit later. We're just going to kind of start at the beginning with the "we are oh so worried" comment from Jen Soto and go from there.
I feel like I can't breathe. All I keep thinking about is, where is she? Is she safe? Is she okay? But we're all a wreck. My entire family is a mess. We're just so worried.
Shaking. I don't know. There's not a lot of emotion there. What do you get out of that initial, Susan?
She's fidgeting too. Don't forget that. My goodness.
Yeah. So what I saw was that fight or flight freeze responses. And when you see those eyes wide open like that, you can see sometimes white corners, 3-corner whites around her eyes. Those are very telling. So she's definitely in a very fear situation. She's feeling a lot of anxiety. That's why you see this deer in headlights look, the dry mouth. There's no salivatory glands that are producing. That happens in fight or flight responses. You see her shaking like a leaf. And when you look at her the shakiness compared to her face, you're thinking to myself, my God, that could be fear that her daughter's been missing and she's really scared. But when you start to see it unfold, it is more of a fear of, oh my God, I don't know what to say. I'm here, and now I've got to tell the story. And the fact that she is trembling so bad was really telling to me that we need to look at this a little bit closer than what we have been.
Susan, do you feel like there was an element of fear in her that someone lurking behind her wants her to tell a certain story? Or do you think it could have just been fear of being on camera?
Well, you have to rule those things out. There's been multiple interviews, but see, that's why we're so good at what we do, because then you run all kinds of reports. So, we don't just base it on one thing. It's a 3-pronged test: your voice, your body language, and your statements. So when you bring them all together with a 3-pronged test, and if every single one of them are coming up deceptive in the language, and the vocal tremors are pulling up deception, and then you're looking at the body language, it all makes sense where there's deception. So yes, those types of environment, just like if somebody was taking the stand, right? So that somebody's the first time they're in court, they're being charged with a horrible crime. Of course they would be nervous if they're on the stand, right? It's their first time, it's the environment, cameras are there, it looks very official. That would increase anxiety. This is beyond that. I mean, we have all seen that fight or flight response, but there is also her tonality when what she's saying, and the language that she uses. There's one where I can't breathe, right? That lack of breathing is part of that fight or flight.
Yeah.
So it all starts to marry together like a symphony when you're reading people. So that was one of the clues that I saw. But overall, language was off. The behavior was off. The rhythm and the duration of those emotions. We look at onset and offset. So in real emotions, they usually kind of fleet off the face, kind of gradual. They'll have a peak and then they kind of gradually come off. If you think about, like, we're women, right? So when we cry, before we're crying, our face is already crinkling up, and then our voice is already cracking. And then we get up to the crescendo, and then we have still the aftermath of the earthquake, right? We have that aftermath, the sniffling, this kind of stuff. When you see this, the duration is onset, offset, onset, offset. There is, and I kind of backing up to that so that I can help people to understand what I'm looking at. This is not subjective, okay? This is based on science. I use what they call a scan analysis. This comes out of England. It's been highly tested. It's been used in law enforcement and government agencies. And you're looking at, this is the same stuff they use for when they're doing airport screening, right? So we know what is the pins we're looking, points of interest. There are 6 channels of human behavior, body, face. We go there. So I have a whole diagram right there. And what have been proven to be indicators of deception. So we're looking at usually 3 indicators in either one and 2 or more of the channels. Okay. So 3 indicators and 2 channels of communication in a 7-second period. So when she's asked a question, watch when she answers it, and you look for a cluster. You look for the 327. So when you see the 327, bingo, there's a strong area of deception. Then I test it in voice stress analysis. Then I test it in the statement analysis, and then it gives a story. Then you've now increased your accuracy to almost 94%.
Want to listen ad-free? Want advanced access to all of our interviews before anyone else?
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts. You get every episode commercial-free, so you can binge on true crime
until you can binge no more.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts now, or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast next.